Yeah, cool. So if any of you have done any of the past classrooms with us, we look a little bit different this week. I'm Emma, and Jules, who was just talking, will be presenting today. So I'm the Director of Styling at this space, and I've been part of the team for 4 years now. And many moons ago, I worked in film, television and theatre. I love connecting with new people, so it's really lovely to see everyone's faces on here today. And I'm coming from my living room all rugged up in the Blue Mountains. So a little bit about this space. The purpose of the classroom is to connect with our network and share our knowledge, adding to your day-to-day work lives. We're a team of 10 and we've been operating for 17 years. We produce events from 5 to 80,000 people. And we've got a styling inventory, wow, Ronnie's been counting it, of over 1,000 products, plus some bespoke lines as well. So we do event styling, business development and operations. And we've got a really huge range of clients. And we have a beautiful showroom that everyone is welcome to come in for a wine or a cup of tea sometime. So I'm going to hand over to Jules now for her presentation, or Ronnie's presentation, on how to make the most of your suppliers.
Thanks, Em. So I would love to just sort of give you a bit of a background on Rani, because she joined our team, has been with us and comes with a really amazing background, and has really poured a lot of her love and heart space into the presentation today, because she's been on both sides, which I think is a really key thing. You know, she started off in retail, assisting to sort of managing stores, and then that's where she found her love of visual merchandising and styling. She studied colour and design and later visual merchandising, and then had several jobs in the VM, so the visual merchandising space, with clients like Westfield, Cartier, event design agencies like Gloss Creative and Riser. And then she was headhunted by Puma, which was a great VM role and really grew her marketing skill. And she was later promoted to be responsible for project managing many of their internal and external events. And that's where she found her love of brand and organising, and God, she does it well. She's travelled to Argentina, which was one of her favourites, which is great. And then she did a 12-month contract role for Gucci in the consumer management and assisted with the internal events and product launches. And of course, we all love to pick her brain on what Gucci Land was like. And then in August, she was brought to this space, and she has just been a really important part to the team. So what she's pulled together, which I love this topic, because I think I've been on both sides myself. I've been the client side and I've been the supplier side, and it really is a lovely dance between the two. So it's important for us to really articulate first, like who are suppliers? And it is anybody. So it's a business or a person who provides you with a product or service. And what you can really do to get the best out of that, and how it needs to work and to get the best out of them, is to make sure that you really establish a connection. And that connection is important and different for every single person. So I suppose for our point of view, it's really important to understand what the client's expectation is wanting out of a relationship, as well as what we need out of the relationship. So to get off on the right foot, it's like any good relationship, you need to develop some rapport. And by doing that face-to-face is really, really important. Now, we all know that everyone is time poor, and it's about really making sure that you can articulate the importance of that. So going out for a coffee, explaining how it is that you work, but what is in particular what they are wanting out of that relationship. If you can't do it face-to-face, obviously over a phone call is just as great. But what we also equally love is when people visit locations, because it's what you get out of the unspoken word of when you walk in, you get the atmosphere and you understand the values of a business and the values of a person. So it's very important that you're very clear on what you require from your relationship. So if you work best in having regular updates, what does regular updates mean to you? For me, that might mean I check in weekly, but for someone, it might mean that they want a daily check-in. Explain how you would like to work. So is it that you prefer sort of a written update versus a verbal update? Or is it that you're wanting regular opportunities to check in and make sure that the project is working how you want it to, versus somebody who might not want that at all, and in fact might see that as you're using up their time and you're not knowing what you're doing. So really establishing that from the onset is super important. Again, really important to find the right supplier who fits with your values and expectations. And I talk a lot about values, and I love that Rani has put that into here, because it is so important. What if your values aren't aligned of how that you want this to work as a relationship, and it's the expectations aren't set from the onset, then you're constantly in a catch-up mode of, have I met their expectations? Have I not? And if you're not honest in your communications, and if you're not honest in asking for feedback and being open to feedback, then it's not going to be a relationship that works on trust. Provide them with your background and your current knowledge. And why that is so important is people need to understand your skill set. They need to be reminded of what that is, because the briefs, as we all know, change constantly. And so if you can add value by bringing forward what your background can bring and your current knowledge to them, you might be missing out on a service that you could be providing them. And equally, from a client side, if you don't know everything about your supplier, then you could be missing out on the fact that they could be assisting you in the long term. Discuss how you can help them. So that's very important, of being inquisitive in your questioning, asking them what are the challenges that they might have faced previously, and what do they require. And then if they're not really clear on that, then keep asking a lot of questions. There's nothing wrong with being inquisitive in how you can provide your best service. And I love this image that Rani has picked, because we've all been there, you know. So I want not this shape and not these colors, but something like this. It's so true. We've all heard it before. And you just think, wow, where is this brief going? So it is so imperative that a client can provide you with a strong brief. Now, given sometimes clients may never have written a brief before, they also may not know your industry very well. They may not know what they don't know. So writing a strong brief should really capture the who, what, where, when, and why. So, and especially the why is very important. Why is it that they're looking for your service? Always back up your spoken conversations with written confirmations in an email. It just means that it takes away any ambiguity later on of who was requiring what and at what time. And don't be afraid to touch base or check in. It goes both ways again. The amount of times that I find that suppliers, for instance, and we don't really like to use that term so much. We always call any supplier to this space as a partner, because we cannot do what we do without them, and we're very transparent in who they are. So if we don't talk about that, and if we don't check in with them and say the client is needing this at this point versus what this client needs, then again there's this ambiguity that can come in. So again, it's very important to develop that rapport, and that comes with time. It's like any great relationship. It just requires you making memories together. And how do you maintain that rapport? Now, I suppose it comes again back to that sort of values moment of we want to have a deep connection with the people that we work with. That's really important to us, but it may not be important to everybody else. So again, finding out what is important to them is very key to a great relationship, and understanding what is important to them, and understanding that they may have other priorities that are going on that are not necessarily the priorities of your project or your service that you're providing. So for me, it's really important that you just got to make their lives easier. And how do you do that? And that's by making sure that you keep that communication flowing. it's so important that we remember on both sides that everyone is a human being. They have things that are going on. They might have some pressures that are happening. And I can't emphasize on that enough, especially at this time. You know, with COVID, there's been a lot of adapting that everyone has had to do. And so just remember that behind everything, there might be something going on for them. And if you're not getting the best that you need out of your supplier, rather than just cutting it and moving on to somebody else, perhaps showing what that empathy can be and that understanding, and saying, is everything okay at the moment for you? Show some compassion. Is there a way that we can work and collaborate together, because this isn't working as well as what it used to for us? So having those very open lines of communication is really important, and a lot of people forget to, I suppose, give people that opportunity to respond in a positive way. And so coming down to, and the final thing that I think is the most imperative thing that we look at, is the follow-up. The amount of opportunities that are out there with just by saying a simple thank you is really important. A lot of the time from a supplier situation, you have gone above and beyond, and you have done so many things that you have not kept your client abreast of, because it's just what you do every day. But it's very important on both sides to say thank you. And that's a very, very simple thing. And I actually, what I love, again, is that I get this opportunity today to talk on this topic. And I thank Ronnie wholeheartedly for that. And Mon, I'm going to throw you out there in this, Mon actually sent to me, we had a beautiful call. It was absolutely gorgeous, and we had a great collaboration. We threw around ideas, and it was fabulous. And then I'm working from home at the moment, and so I went into the office and I checked the post, and I got the most beautiful card, and it's right here, and it was just it really made my day. And I'm going to read it out because I think it's important, because this is a really lovely thing. Is that she wrote, "Dear Jules, you're a wonderful human being. I'm so grateful for your kindness and support. It really means a lot to me. Lots of love, Mon." And that beautiful act of just saying thank you, it still sits on my desk. It sits
Oh, that's awesome.
and it means so much to me, in the fact of, there is this moment that we do need to connect in a very authentic way. It's not always about showering somebody in gifts and being the moment of saying, well, what gift is bigger than the other? But it's actually just making sure that you can maintain that human connection and that human story, so that your relationship can keep growing from strength to strength. So we've got some amazing questions I know that we've received from prior to this from today. So we'll go through a few of those. But Rani has done this amazing sort of summary slide, which I think is really key. And so if you do need moments of just sort of checking back in to see where you're sitting in your journey of your relationship, it's really looking at those 4 key things of establishing what that relationship looks like, communicating to what the needs are of your client and your supplier, develop and maintain a rapport. Again, really understanding from that establishment onset what it is that they are needing. If you over communicate, maybe that's going to annoy them, versus if you under communicate, they're going to feel like they're not important. And then the follow-up. Follow-up is absolutely key, and continue that follow-up, because opportunities come from that. So I think we'll throw into the questions, Em. I'm just going to stop sharing so that we can now just be able to see each other better. There we go.
All right, thanks for that, Jules, and for Rani as well, although she's not even here for me to say it to her. I hope everyone else got something out of that. I definitely did. So I'll read out these questions, but just in the meantime, if you've got anything that pops into your head, feel free to type it into the chat function down the bottom there, and we can go over them as well. Okay, so Jackie asked, I'm an industry supplier and want to know if there's something I could do better in order to assist my clients.
Well, hopefully, Jackie, the presentation has given you some ideas of those sort of 4 key areas. I think one of the strongest things for anyone to establish is that rapport and understanding that it's not a cookie cutter approach, that everybody requires it in a different way. Understanding again and coming back to that moment of really understanding what that person has on their plate and then what they're needing from you. So, and making sure that what you commit to, you stick to. It is not something that you can then go, if a client, for instance, turns around and says to you, well, a weekly check-in is important to me, then be inquisitive and ask, what is the weekly check-in? Oh, my doggy's decided to come and join the webinar. And so what is it that they're wanting out of that? How much information do they need? And make sure that you supply it on time, because the knock-on effect, which they, again, may not have shared with you, is that they might need that information that goes into a board paper, for instance, and then you're putting pressure on them if you don't supply that on time. So that's all about building that rapport.
Great. Keelan asked, how can I quantify value, i.e. cost, reliability, value adding, consistency, and results?
That's a really, really great question and really important. And I think because we go through very much the same thing. And I think what has to happen from the onset is really explaining and making sure that it's a collaborative conversation about what are the services that you do provide. Often it's super helpful if they can come over to your offices so that they can see what you do, because you could work with someone for years and years and years, and then suddenly that they may never have had the opportunity to come to your office, and then suddenly they come over and they'll say to you, I never knew that you did that. And how many times do we all hear that? And it might be that you've had conversations with them in passing, but until they come and experience it firsthand, they don't really grasp what it is that you can do as a level of support. So quantifying that is about breaking it down. You've got to think, you know, for instance, if you're going to buy, say, a new top, and you're looking at that and you're buying something that is like a $5 top from Kmart versus something that's made by Gucci, you know in your brain that there is a huge amount of work that has gone into the design, the hand stitching of that garment that's coming from Gucci versus mass production that's coming from Kmart, and that's why you're getting it at that price point. So you need to be articulating that yourselves in regards to what is the service that you provide. You know, if you're in more of a service industry, again, it's even more important for you to explain that, because you're not providing a product, you're providing a service. And what is the experience behind that service that you're providing, because that's what you're invariably paying for.
Great. A question from a different Jackie. I have great relationships with my suppliers, but am I too friendly?
Oh, that's excellent, because people throw that at me all the time, because I just love to be best friends with everyone. So I get that wholeheartedly, but what is really, really important is to still be able to always have professional conversations, and to be able to set that relationship up from the beginning. So you should be able to have a great rapport and a banter. And Jackie, you shouldn't feel like you have to change who you are as a person to then have a professional relationship. It's about always making sure that you define the boundaries of when you're having a bit of fun with each other and when you're needing the professional side of the services that you're needing. Always be upfront and honest about, I need this at this time. If people don't deliver, then they're not delivering on the service that you've employed them to do. That's got nothing to do with your friendship that you have. It is down to the fact that they haven't provided the service that you're needing. So again, you're just needing to be coming back and making sure that you're articulating through the journey of exactly what you're needing. And if those goalposts change, and they will change, because you will be asked for different things as you go along by perhaps your manager and your manager's manager, make sure that you're getting in on the forefront and letting your supplier know that to begin with, so that they have time to respond and give you the information that you're needing as well.
Great. Question from Emerald. She always has good questions. What are some things you can say to them in order to get better deals as well as increase partner relationships? What are some of the things that we can do to support them? Questions.
That is a very complex question and appreciated, given the fact of, especially the climate that we're in now. From a supplier point of view, it is, again, it comes back to this rapport moment. A supplier and a partner will provide you with as much as they possibly can, remembering that they have a business to run as well and overheads that they have to pay. So whilst it comes down to what that rapport looks like, your better relationships and your better, I suppose, if you're looking at a pricing model, will come from how strong your partnership is and how much you value that partnership. So for us, our partners have been with us, majority of them, for 17 years. And that's because we constantly sit down and evaluate our partnership with them. We make sure that we're getting competitive pricing that's going to be really quality back to our clients. But we make sure it's not just about pricing. We make sure that it's super important that they can back up the skill that they're putting out there, and what have they done recently to demonstrate that skill. And so if you stay with a partnership, and again, it's got to be working well, if you stay with that partnership, you can then get economies of scale, what we call economies of scale. So if a client uses you for one service and one thing, well, it's very transactional. You're giving them that one service, versus if you're using, say, a company which is, say, for creative services, like when we do that for some clients, or we're coming in and doing creative services for them, then we look at the whole suite of what it is that they're needing, and we look at how do we give them the best value for money. Is there actually a better way that they may not have thought about before that could save them money in the long run? So when you're looking at things a little bit as a wider viewpoint, you can often then get better deals.
Cool. A question from Terry. Great to see you on here, Terry. What can suppliers do to streamline the event agency's process?
It's that constant communication. I think, and I hear this from suppliers with event agencies, and I suppose I can only kind of talk from our point of view of what we do. It's very important for the event agency to articulate, as soon as they find out information from their client, it's our job to act as that conduit of really extrapolating out from the client what they're needing, not being reactionary, really understanding and I suppose auditing what it is that they're after, and asking those questions of, oh, but have you thought about this way? Rather than reacting, going straight to a supplier and saying, they need a price change or they need a new quote and it's 1 o'clock and, oh, by the way, they want it at 2 o'clock. The pressure that puts on everybody in that process, for a start, means that you're never going to get value for money, because it's people just reacting and getting something back to you. And it means that you're not being able to do your service the best how you would like to. And a third party is then demonstrating that service to the end client. So there's that reputational risk that comes into play there. So I would say be very, very honest, Terry, with the agencies that you work with. Make some time to sit down with them and say to them, these are the things that have worked really well in the last 6 months of how we've worked with you, but these are the things that don't work so well, and this is my ideas of how I think we can change that. And you'll be surprised at how responsive people will be, because at the end of the day, they want to streamline their processes too.
Cool. And last question that I've got here is from Corrine. How do you start a relationship with a new supplier?
I suppose the first thing that we look at is it's really important because there are so many suppliers out there. You know, there's a lot of opportunity for people to move around. So for us, it's about really auditing anyone that we decide to work with and want to collaborate and partner with to begin with. So firstly, you've got to do your due diligence as an agency. We have to, in making sure that, yes, they have everything in place. They've got the insurances in place. They have got the experience that they say they've got, you know, how do they like to work? Are they available to be able to be working even over a 7-day period if you have international clients and things like that? That's really important too. But also the chance of being able to just sit down and go and meet with people. I feel like people are kind of losing the art of that. And there's a chance of being able to just even call and say, hey, look, I really like what you do. I think our values are aligned. And, you know, that's actually how Mon and I started working together, we saw each other's work and we just went, oh, this is how you work. Should we just get together and have a coffee and have a bit of a chat? And we did that. And then we would just, you know, the coffee turned into virtually like half a day because our values were very much aligned of how we work. So it's very important when you're establishing that first supplier relationship is that you really understand what your values are, what your company values are, and find like-minded suppliers who are going to align with that.
Great. Well, no other questions have popped up. If anyone has anything that they want to ask, feel free to turn your microphone on and ask away. But in the meantime, I'll let you know that next week we have current styling trends in the market, which I'm actually presenting, so it's going to be a good one. Anyone got any questions?
Any comments or questions? It's all good. Nice to see you, Kate.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Hello, sorry, I'm on mute.
Mon's written, I wish all my clients and partners were as considered and genuine and intelligent as you guys. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for your fantastic presentation. That was spot on. Thanks, Mon. That's really lovely. We just, you know, we like working with like-minded people. I think we've developed a lovely little tribe here with our masterclasses and connecting with people. I think it's super important to try and find who your tribe is. If you haven't found them yet, just keep searching.
Okay. All right, thanks everyone for joining us today. What we'll do is we'll send out a recording of this and the presentation as well. You're welcome to share it with anyone that you think might be interested. See you next week.
Thanks everyone. Take care. Be safe.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Bye guys.
Bye.
Bye.